Welcome to Sports Talk with R&J. I'm Steve Risser along with Justin here, and we have made it. We are at the semifinals of the college football playoffs. They begin tonight as Miami takes on Ole Miss. And before we talk about the game, and I'm going to start with you, Justin, the big question going to this Miami Ole Miss game is how distracted is Ole Miss this week with the transfer portal opening up, Lane Kiffin only like 2 of their 6 assistants are allowed to coach. So how much has Lane Kiffin been a distraction this week? The Lane Kiffin stuff been a distraction to Ole Miss this week.
Yeah, we'll find out. I think a little bit because as you mentioned, a couple coaches now won't be back with Ole Miss. I know their offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss Jr. is, but I don't think it's a running coach coming back. I think the tight end. There's a couple other assistants I don't totally remember. But yeah, it's interesting. And for Ole Miss too, this is the first of their 3 playoff games that it's not a rematch too. So you have to kind of build your game plan now from scratch, which makes it even tougher when your coaches are going back and forth between LSU and Ole Miss. It's on a long flight, of course, but they're distracted elsewhere. So yeah, it is a difficult one, and you're going up against a really good Miami team that's playing great football right now and a really good defensive front, and that's where a lot of those Ole Miss assistant coaches are on the offensive staff. So that's where it's gonna be the toughest to kind of build the game plan this week against that Miami defense.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's going to be a distraction. I definitely think it is. As you said, it's going to be tough to build a game plan. It's not a rematch. I think it's definitely going to be a distraction going into the week. And we got our buddy Frank. He's in the chat. He's got to be so pumped up about tonight. He's going to be pumped up about today. I feel like the Dolphins fired McDaniel. The Miami's trying to get to the national championship for the first time since in my opinion, they got screwed against Ohio State on that last play of the game. If you sit here and tell me Miami can't win, that's a funny one. That is a funny one. That is a funny one. And he's talking about Miami. We got to get into. We'll start with Miami. What does Miami need to do to win this game? What does Miami need to do? And the first one is so obvious. It's been their bread and butter all year with Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor. Get pressure on Chambliss. They did on Julian Say, and they sacked him 5 times. They sacked Marcel Reed 7 times. That has been the bread and butter of Mario Cristobal's team this year. Get pressure on the quarterback. Get pressure on Trinidad Chambliss. It's been the bread and butter of their teams. As Frank says, defense, and he's definitely right about the defense. So that's number one. Number two, to Frank's point, talking about defense, contain Kyron Lacey. Contain Kyron Lacey. Don't let him beat you. And they've been good again. Good at containing running game. Ohio State did run them on them in the second half when they went to 12 personnel. But again, the run game. Frank said it. Contain their running game. And then number 3, what's been another thing they've done on offense? Run the football. Mark Fletcher's had 2 really good games. Continue to run the ball with Mark Fletcher. So if they do those 3 things, there's a good chance they can make their first national championship game since 2002. Justin, what are your keys to Miami's victory against Ole Miss?
Yeah, for Miami. And you know where the national championship game is being played next week is, right?
In Miami.
Yeah, Miami.
Frank's got to be so excited about that, about having a home game for the national title game.
Yeah, I know they've won a couple in the past down in there in Miami before, so wouldn't be the first time. Yeah, so but yeah, going back to keys to this game, my first one is kind of just play your game. Slow down the game, limit the possessions. Keep Ole Miss offense on the sideline. That's kind of been what they did. That's what they did against Ohio State because I think Ohio State was anticipating more of a hoping to play more possessions, and then they kind of panicked there and in the second half with some of their stuff. So for Miami, continue to just chew up clock and just limit the possessions. Number 2, contain Trinidad Chambliss. Don't let him make plays from outside the pocket like Georgia let him do last week, where he made some big plays, especially kind of in the second half. So contain him and they faced Castellanos from Florida State this year is a good runner, but he had 16 carries on 57 yards. They did a pretty good job against him, and how many times he ran the ball. And then Kevin Jennings, the SMU quarterback, they did a really good job against him too. So they've done pretty good in that area. But this, Chambliss is actually getting outside the pocket and making plays. And third is was one of your points, Steve, was containing Kayvon Lacey. Because if they can kind of slow down and make Miami one-dimensional, I think that's going to be huge to that defense to be able to kind of tee off in Chambliss and make it pretty hard in that Ole Miss offense to get stuff going. You make them one-dimensional, and Ruben Bain can kind of go tee off and the rest of those defensive linemen.
And Frank says he is pumped up if Miami wins. They'll be able to play the game in Coral Gables. And yeah, you talked about Trinidad Chambliss. You talked about that is such a key. Do not let him make big play, contain him. Do not make big plays with his legs. That's what Georgia failed to do. That third down, they made that great play when he escaped from a couple defensive tackles and made that play. So yeah, Chambliss, they just cannot let Trinidad Chambliss, make those big plays. They can't, and I have more confidence they will because I think they have a better pass rush than Georgia. They do, and I think like Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain, they're going to get Chambliss down. They're not. I don't think they're going to let Chambliss make the plays that Georgia let him make.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Miami's been so good in that area this year. And yeah, that was kind of what my worry was last week with Georgia. Is they really have not had a pass rush all year, and it just kind of told. And then Georgia's secondary, they lost one guy to ejection to a target, which that was kind of that was a horrible call. And then they, injury as well. So they kind of exposed Georgia in the second half in their secondary. And Miami secondary, was pretty good last week. I thought it was,
How about Scott getting
the secondary?
How about Scott getting that pick six?
Yeah, that was huge too. Like I didn't really know how great Miami secondary going the game was because of how good their pass rush has been all year. So, we're gonna find out. It's another big test for the secondary. But yeah, if that pass rush get going, if they can get after Chambliss, it's gonna be huge.
Oh, it's humongous. That to me, that's so imperative that they get pressure on Chambliss, and they do that because if they can get pressure and contain and Keywan Lacey to contain him. So that's gonna be big for Miami. But now we'll move on to Ole Miss. What Ole Miss has to do to win? What Ole Miss has to do to win this game? And number one is protect Trinidad Chambliss because they're not going to get away. I'm telling you, they're not going to get away with because there were times last week they kind of got away with it against Georgia. They're not going to. Oh, let's see what Frank has to say. Miami secondary is very. Do you agree with this, Justin? That Miami secondary is very good.
They're much better than last year. I think they haven't been tested much this year just because of how good their front's been. So I was actually pretty impressed with how their secondary did play last week, and that was one of my things. And I see Frank says nothing. They are not going to win. I will give out the predictions in a second, but yeah, like Miami's in great spot here, and Chris Paul's done a great job. So yeah, I think Miami secondary has been really, really good because they really improved on that from last year because that secondary last year was a mess, and they couldn't stop anything last year.
Yeah, it looks like they did. That pick six was a huge pick six. Scott's pick six in the first half of that Ohio State game. That was a huge pick six. But circling back to Ole Miss, I'd say first protect Chambliss. You got to protect Chambliss. You obviously do because if they don't, they're going to be in trouble. Get Lacey going. He didn't have a great game against Georgia, but you got to get him going. He was better than he was the previous game against Georgia. So get Lacey going. And then third, Chambliss has to continue to be great. He was phenomenal against Georgia, and he's coming back to Ole Miss next year. So you won't be going to the draft, but still, he's got to continue to be phenomenal. Because you look at these rosters, I feel like Miami actually has a better, even though they're an ACC team and Ole Miss is an SEC team. I feel like Miami has a better. If you look at like the first team All-Americans and stuff, I think Miami actually has a better roster, but Ole Miss has the better quarterback.
Yeah, Ole Miss does, and Chambliss, he appealed for another year because in 2022 he only played 2 games, so he's hoping to get that year exempt for another red shirt. So you never know at the NCAA. So for Ole Miss, I think it would be great to have him back. So, but yeah, so there's a chance he might not have to. There's a chance that he might not be eligible, but I couldn't tell you with the NCAA. I don't know any of these rules anymore in the NCAA. It is so bad. That's another discussion for another day. Yeah, for Ole Miss for this game for me, Mikey is kind of with Ole Miss has to play their style. Because you got to make this game a shootout. You got to stay on the field because you will beat Miami in a shootout. So they can get up and down the field, and if you can make Miami's defensive linemen play like 70 to 80 plays, I think that's gonna be huge to kind of try to slow down that pass rush too, just to wear them down. So the number 1, 2 is kind of play your style of football. Secondly, same as yours here, is protect Chambliss. Miami's got 12 sacks already through the first 2 games. They've been awesome, and kind of mentioned it. Georgia's pass rush, it hasn't been there all year. Ole Miss, if they can protect him, keep Chambliss, and make him kind of make plays on the run like he did last week, they're gonna be tough to stop with their weapons. And then lastly, stay out of 3rd and long. Kind of be in manageable situations so that pass rush just can't tee off on you. An obvious passing situation. So, be able to go 3rd and 4, 3rd and 3, and be able to kind of keep them honest there. So I think you have to be huge. Well, just being in manageable situations with 3rd down.
Yeah, you talk about 3rd and manageable. That's a big key for Ole Miss. If you can't be in 3rd and manageable against Miami, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble because Akeem Mesidor and Ruben Bain. Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are so good on the edges. So you have to be able to protect Chambliss.
Yeah, yeah, you have to. Yeah, because if they don't, it's gonna be a long day, and we've seen, you know, I think a really, that takes in offense. Yeah, it wasn't great, but like to slow down that Ohio State offense like they did last week is very impressive. So, and Ole Miss set two's got a very impressive offense. I know Lane Kiffin's a great play caller, but Blake did a pretty good job last week, and they. The Georgia's defense wasn't up to the standards we're usually seeing, but that's still a lot. The Georgia team that does have some talent on that side of the ball.
Oh, they definitely do. They definitely have talent on that side of the ball, and Chambliss had a big game. But here's the thing: Miami's pass rush, I think, is better than Georgia's pass rush. So
Mhm.
we'll see what Chambliss does there. But getting to our game predictions, and Frank is going to be really happy with us. Frank is going to be really happy with us. He's going to be happy with me first. He's going to be happy with me because I'm going to take the Hurricanes here. I'm going to go Miami. I think they're going to contain Lacey, and I think the pass rush is going to be the difference. I think Ruben Bain and Akeem Mesidor are going to be the difference. And here's the other thing: they're going to be able to run the ball. The Miami to me is going to play this game on their terms, as Justin mentioned. They can't win a shootout with Carson. They really can't win a shootout against Ole Miss. They can't go up and down with Ole Miss. They can't be going up and down with Ole Miss. So I think that Miami wins it. I think Frank's going to be happy with me. I think Miami gets to their first national title game in 23 years since 2002. I got Miami winning this game, 20-16 over Ole Miss. And I do think the Lane Kiffin stuff's going to be a distraction to Ole Miss. I do think that's going to be a distraction, especially to their offense. So I'm going 20-16 over Ole Miss. Justin, Justin, can Ole Miss get to their first national championship game in program history?
Yeah, I got the case too, 28-24 here. I think, I agree. I think Miami's going to be playing their game on their terms. I do think they're going to keep Shameless off the field here. And I do think, I'd like to see Frank's perspective too on this. Have you changed your tune on Chris Ball yet to fully trust him? Because I'm starting to get there. I don't want to totally buy in yet, but like my big thing was him as well as these big games. But I think on the other side with Pete Golding, this is the first time he's really had to put a game plan together. Because again, they've played two rematches, so you already kind of have kind of a book on them. So I think Miami's got the upper hand in this one too. So I trust Cristobal in this moment. I think Beck's played pretty well. As long as they put him in positions where he doesn't make mistakes, and he's done a pretty good job of that outside of like the Miami game. I mean the SMU and Louisville game this year. So I do like the Canes. I think they're bad. I just think that pass rush would be too much for Ole Miss here, and they get it done in all kind of the distraction for Ole Miss. This is a week kind of bites them, but it's been a heck of a run.
It has been, and Frank does it great. Frank's saying 24-21. He agrees with us, but the Canes are going to. Of course, he does agree because he's a Miami fan. So he agrees that the Canes are going to win at 24-21. He said, this is directing me. About time you agree Miami wins.
Yeah, because you picked A&M. I had Miami.
I picked A&M in the first round. I picked A&M.
I did have Ohio State.
I picked A&M. I picked Ohio State. So the last two times he remembers that I picked against Miami in the first two games. So he remembers. Yeah, but I like that pass rush. I really do. So so I got Miami going to play a national title game in their home stadium.
Yep, absolutely. And another year where the SEC does not win a national championship either. So and they'll lose an ACC team. I have a very good ACC team, but the CC fans would not be very happy. So be nice. It'd be great. It's great for college football that we have these four, and it'd be great too if Miami's kind of back on the national stage. So Chris Ball's done it. I figured Chris Ball getting back to the playoffs. I wasn't sure Chris Ball could get them over the top and get them a national championship, but sign up that it's very, very possible this year.
It is. It's definitely very possible that Mario Cristobal could win the Hurricanes a national title. We'll move on to the second game, a rematch of a game from Week 7 that Indiana won 30-20 over Oregon, but they will play each other in the Peach Bowl tomorrow night. You got Oregon and you got Indiana, and we'll get right into what each team has to do to win this game. We'll start with Oregon, and number one for me is to protect Dante Moore. Got sacked six times against Indiana the first time. Number two, get pressure on Mendoza. Find some way to screw up Mendoza because he's just been great all year long. He's been the best quarterback in college football. Find some way to get him off his game. Find some way to get Fernando Mendoza off his game. And then number three, capitalize on opportunity, something they did not do against Texas Tech. Now, they were lucky that Barron Moore and the Texas Tech offense was absolutely terrible, so they were able to win that game. But if they don't capitalize on opportunities, say they force a couple turnovers and don't capitalize on those opportunities, they're not going to beat Fernando Mendoza, Kirk Cignetti, and Indiana. So to me, those are my three. Pressure on Moore, protect Moore, get pressure on Mendoza, and capitalize on opportunities.
Yeah, for me, for the Ducks in this one, Dan Lanning, kind of don't be over aggressive in this one because he's got some Dan Campbell in him where like he's just too aggressive in some of these moments. Because you talk about the opportunities just now. Oregon should have won that game 38-0 last week. Like that game was closer than what the scoreboard indicated. So this is a week too where you got away with against Texas Tech, but this is a week against an Indiana team where you're not gonna be able to take advantage of it and don't kind of swing momentum back the other way if you don't get a 4th and 4 at midfield. So it's okay to punt or take field goals at times. It is okay. Number two, try to make Indiana one-dimensional offense because man, if the running game away, be a huge key for him because and try to make Mendoza beat you with just his arm because they do run a lot of RPO stuff. So you try to make them one-dimensional offense will be huge because they've just been so great with their bounce attack all year. Number three, can you get any semblance of a running game? Because going back to being one-dimensional, I don't think you're going to beat Oregon having Dante Moore drop back 45 times this week. And they're banged up, Oregon, at the running game. And now they just lost Jordan Davidson, who's out. And, that's their goal line back. And then Lampley, who had like the big reception last week's in the portal, he's not playing this week. So, like, Oregon's pretty decimated at the running back room. Can somebody step up in there and just give them any semblance of a running game to keep Indiana kind of off balance?
That's a good point about a run game for Oregon. You made a great point about a run game for Oregon. Yeah. Could somebody come? Yeah. Could somebody, give Oregon? Yeah. You got it. Oregon's. Yeah. That's a good point because if they can't run the ball, yeah. If he's dropping that 45 times, like Ty Simpson was dropping back a bunch of times in the Rose Bowl, it's going to be a problem. So yeah, that's definitely a huge, huge key for Oregon to get a running game going. That's a huge key for Oregon there. Now we'll go on to what Indiana's got to do to win the game, and for me, get pressure on Moore and force him to make mistakes. They threw 2 picks in their matchup in Eugene. So force Dante Moore to make some mistakes. Force Dante Moore to make a couple mistakes. Number 2, get the running game going continue to run the ball with Black and Henry. They ran the ball great against Alabama. It's going to be tougher to run the ball against Oregon because they're better against the run, but still get that running game going. And then Mendoza continue to have the year he's having. He's just been amazing this year. He's had a great year. He's the Heisman Trophy winner for a reason. He's been the best quarterback in college football for a reason. We'll get to him his draft. What we think he's going to do. What we think he's going to do in the draft in a little bit. But my 3 are get pressure on Moore, force him to make mistakes, get the running game going, win with Black and Hemby, and Mendoza's got to continue to be great.
Yeah, my 3 for the Hoosiers was one of yours as well. It's that rushing attack, kind of stay balanced, make Oregon because Oregon's been really good against the run all year, and they can be balanced and be able to kind of pick apart Oregon and or try to pick apart Oregon because because I think Indiana's to be able to kind of have some success through the year as well in this one. But for them, get that running game going as well. Number 2, get off to another kind of fast start like they have most of the year. Outside like that Ohio State game, but every other game this year, they've gone off to really hot starts and they've gone up on their opponent early. So do that again. And number 3 is that defense just gets after Dante Moore again. You mentioned they sacked him 6 times the first meeting. Oregon only gave up 15 sacks all year, and 6 of them came in that meeting. So could this be? Because I think if Oregon wins, I think this is a week where they really miss their big Stephen Daly. Up front, like if they somehow lose this game, that's where I think like he could be a major loss. But Indiana can get after more. They're in great shape.
Yeah, you brought up Stephen Daly too. It's a good point. They brought that up before the they brought that up before the Texas Tech game. That's a great point there about Stephen Daly because that could be if Indiana has a big day on the ground, that could be one of the big reasons why. And we got another comment from Frank. In order for the Ducks to win, they need to stop Mendoza. They need to shut. They're not going to stop. They're not going to completely stop Mendoza, but they got to contain Mendoza. They got to contain him. They can't have him going crazy like he's been doing. Like he's been doing lately.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Because if he goes crazy into that secondary, and then they're able to get a rushing attack going, it could get pretty ugly. Because that Ducks offense this year, I mentioned last week, it's kind of struggled against top tier defenses, and they didn't do a ton last week. They should have put up more points than they did, and you mentioned they didn't capitalize opportunities. And this is a week where Indiana is not going to give you many opportunities to get like a be able to kind of get a short drive or anything like that. So yeah, for the Ducks, yeah, they got to just slow down Mendoza and keep them in check.
They definitely they definitely have to. There's no question that they have to. Now the big storyline going into this game is the two quarterbacks, Mendoza and Dante Moore. They look like if Dante Moore comes out, it looks like they're going to be the top two picks in the draft. It looks like the Raiders will take Mendoza, and the Jets would take more. Jets are going to take more. Now, saying that if you had the choice, if you're the Raiders, what quarterback would you take over one? Would it be Fernando Mendoza between the two? Would you take Fernando Mendoza or would you take Dante Moore? I think it's pretty obvious to take Fernando Mendoza. He was a first team All American, first team All Big Ten. Moore wasn't even a first team All Big Ten. Now, could Moore have more upside? I don't know. I think Mendoza has as much upside as Moore, even though he's a little bit older than Moore. I would go with Fernando Mendoza. I think if I had the number one pick, I would definitely go with Fernando Mendoza.
I'm going with Dante Moore a little bit more because of the scheme. I just worry about Mendoza running that RPO system. And again, I guess right now we don't even know who's going to be running an offense for the Raiders too. So like we don't know what scheme they're bringing in or anything. So, but I think more. I think a little bit maybe translates more to the NFL. I think he's done a really good job for the most part under pressure. He's shown some cracks. I mean, under pressure this year. But I think just the arm talent that he has, I think, is a little bit more impressive than Fernando Mendoza. I think they're both really good quarterbacks. But I like Dante Moore just a little bit more because I think he's a little bit better of an athlete too than Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, but I haven't seen Moore move around. I've seen Mendoza move around more than Moore, though.
Yeah, I know Moore's not great. Yeah, Moore hasn't done a ton either, I guess, scrambling wise. But I just because man, with all the RPO stuff, like he's not a great runner. He's a little bit bigger than Moore. Um, but I think Moore kind of a little bit more outside the pocket. I do like him kind of a little bit more outside the pocket than I do Mendoza. Um, because I know I think was it last year from or his rookie or no, but yeah, so I know Moore really hasn't done it either, but I do like him a little bit more outside the pocket to kind of continue to make plays, but just a little bit more than I do Mendoza.
Yeah, Frank is chiming in. I would take Mendoza. He's been a good QB his whole life. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, you've
you
seen
can
him
see
all.
more consistency because he was good at Cal. So Mendoza was good at Cal. This is really, Dante Moore's first year as a starter. I mean, he was really that first year at UCLA, but he wasn't great at UCLA. This. I mean, Mendoza's been good. He's been good his entire college career, pretty much.
Yeah, and he's a Miami kid, Mendoza too. So I know Frank's probably seen him. Probably all the way up. So, him and his brother. So,
Here we go.
and
Here we go.
Mendoza's brother. Yeah,
I've seen him play since he
yeah,
was a
yeah.
kid. Yeah. He's a
Yeah,
good
because he's
athlete.
a
Yeah,
Miami kid.
yeah.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, I think he is a good athlete. I do like more. I do like Moore's arm a little bit better than Mendoza because I just think the arm talent's just a little bit better with Moore than Mendoza. But I think Oregon's offense translates a little bit more to the NFL. I just worry with the RPO stuff at the NFL level, but again, it depends too on who's coming in for the Raiders. To actually who's calling the offense and what system are they running too. So we'll come down to which quarterback kind of fits better.
Yeah. We'll see. It should be interesting, but I think to me, there's no doubt they're going to be the top two. They're top two picks in the draft next year.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I know McShay was kind of going on that like nobody. I didn't really totally buy that nobody wants to go to the Jets. So yeah, I think they're both going to come out. Which makes sense. Because I know McShay was saying with like more because Oregon could probably pay him a pretty good amount if he wanted to come back to school, but like I don't see it. I think you'd probably go this year. So because maybe off Quebec could be a little bit better next year. You never know.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, I think it's definitely more or more in Mendoza will be the top two picks. Now for the prediction for this game, I think this is a close competitive game, but I think the difference in this game is I think Indiana's going to be the team that runs the ball better. I think they're going to be the team that runs the football better. I think Mendoza makes less mistakes here, and I do think Dante Moore plays pretty well. I think he plays better than he did the last time. He competes. I think he comes right down to the end with more with the ball in his hands. But I think Indiana's defense makes the play, and that's why I got Mendoza coming home. I got Mendoza coming home to face the Miami Hurricanes in the national championship. I got Indiana and Miami in the national title. I got Indiana winning this game 27-20. But Justin, can the Ducks get revenge and get to the national title game for the first time since 2014?
No, I got the Hoosiers as well in this one. I got them 24-21. I just think Indiana is a better team, and Cignetti's making this sport look pretty easy right now. Like Saban did. They're killing the portal. To do what they did to Alabama, is impressive, and there's just no weaknesses with this Indiana team, and I think that continues. And I really, Laning's a good coach, but I just think he's a little bit over aggressive. I think it comes back to bite them at some point in this game. And I do like the Ducks here. I mean, I do like the Hoosiers. I think that defense gets after Dante Moore again. I think it could be a tough day if that offensive line can't protect them. So I do like the Hoosiers. I just don't see many holes in this team.
So you got Fernando Mendoza coming home to face
Hometown team.
Miami, and he brought it up too. They're the most complete team in college football. There really aren't any holes. They're good on the offensive line. They're good in the run game. They're good at receiver. They're good on the defensive line. They're good at linebacker. And they're good in the secondary. They're good everywhere. They're pretty much the most complete team in college football. Who would have thought the Indiana Hoosiers, the Indiana football would be the most complete team in a season?
Yeah. It's wild. I guess even Friday night they're canceling Indiana high school basketball games, which
they should, yeah.
For Indiana football, yeah,
they should.
You never would have. Yeah, they should, but you never would have thought Indiana high school basketball is getting moved because of Indiana football. But that's happening in 2026. So, Kurt Cignetti's doing it. He's been awesome. Frank's got the Hoosiers here 24-17.
Yeah, he's got Mendoza facing Miami in the final. He's got Mendoza facing him in the final.
Yeah. I wonder. I'm surprised Miami didn't take him over Carson Beck last year in the portal.
I know.
I don't remember the timeline, but you would have thought. But I just Cignetti's done an awesome job, and it's not even like he's really killing it high school. He's killing it in the portal, and they just done a really good job in the portal, just identifying talent and going to get them. So again, he's making it. He's making the sport look easy nowadays, where a lot of coaches are trying to get out of it, and I get why, but he's just making it look simple. And you saw his expressions on the sideline. They're up 38-7, and he's not happy, or 38-3, whatever it was.
38-3, yeah.
He doesn't look happy. Yeah. It's insane what he's built at Indiana. And I guess any school could do it if Indiana. And Cuban's gonna start pitching in too. So they're Cuban's got a ton of money to help out as well.
Oh, Mark Cuban?
Yeah, he's an IU alum.
Oh wow. Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so
Cignetti had the perfect phrase after the season last year. He said the perfect comment. Google me, I win, and he was right about that. He definitely was right. So so we both got the hometown kid Fernando Mendoza heading to Miami for the national title game. So that should be interesting. And we got another Cristobal.
Yeah, I forgot about that. That would be a fun one too.
That's interesting. I would like to see the Ducks again. That'd be interesting.
That. That's a good one.
That's another one. So we got two interesting. Say Miami wins, you got two interesting storylines. You got Mendoza coming back home to face Miami, and then you got Cristobal facing his former team. And Cristobal used to be at Oregon when Justin Herbert was there, facing his former team.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple storylines, and then if Ole Miss wins, you got the storylines of can Ole Miss do it with an interim head coach? So
yeah. I mean, I think
it's
Golding is the head coach though, right now, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. But I should have said doing it without your head, with your head coach leaving, not thinking that you could win a national championship and being able to do that. So I think it's great the 14 that we got. In this,
it is.
I think it's great that there's some new blood here.
Three of them have never won a national title either. Or Indiana hasn't, Oregon hasn't, or neither has Ole Miss. Two of them haven't even been to the national championship game with Ole Miss and
Ole Miss and IU. Yeah.
With Ole Miss and IU.
Indiana.
It should be great. It should be really good. I really like the four that we have.
Yeah, I do too. I like that we got some new blood here, and that's what I think what college football needed. So hopefully now I know not everybody likes support on the NIL totally, but I think it does help spread out the talent, and you're starting to kind of see it. The IUs of the world. Oregon's got a ton of money. You're seeing Miami be back on the map. So again, where you had Georgia, Alabama just covet the 5 stars, and they just keep them for 3-4 years. Now if they don't play after a year, they're in the portal and they're going elsewhere to go play right away. So I think it's great for the sport. I know there's a lot of bad, but I think some of it has helped kind of even out the sport of college football, made it more competitive.
Yeah, it definitely has. It definitely has made it more competitive. So it should be an interesting semifinal. It starts tonight as Oregon takes on Indiana. So it all begins tonight with the college football semifinals. But we got to move on to a great game last night. And UConn, who was down 11 points, down 86-75 with 3 minutes to go, came back, tied the game at 89, and then eventually won it in overtime. Demre hit that huge shot to close the game out. So UConn wins, goes to 15-1, 5-0 in the Big East. I mean, I know Providence is a 500. It's like 8-7, but still, if you know Big East basketball, that's a brutal play. The dunk is, I'm calling it, I know it's the Ant, but always call it the dunk. The dunk is a brutal place to play at. That's a brutal place to play. One of the toughest in college basketball. People don't really know that as much because, around the Big East, they don't, if you're not, associated with the Big East, you really don't know that this as much, but the dunk is a brutal place to play at. UConn was down 11. They came back and won the game. And it was a huge, big win for them. It was a big win for them. Demre came up big. Reed came up big, tying the game late. Huge game for probably Mullen's best game. Braylon Mullen's best game as a Husky, scoring 24 points. So good win for UConn. 5-0 in the Big East. Justin, your thoughts on last night?
Yeah, wild basketball game. I don't know why I kind of thought it wasn't gonna be an easy one, but I kind of thought, all right, they should win this game, and did not think they were gonna be down 10 at the half, and they have to go to overtime to beat Providence. But yeah, it's a huge gut check win for them where they did not play well in this first half. They came out, and Providence is a tougher team. Providence just came out and out toughed them. In the second half, they kind of regrouped and made some adjustments, which is huge. And because even Marquette got to the basket pretty easily on Sunday. They just couldn't finish layups. Providence had some success. They shot the ball 2 from deep, and some regression came on the UConn 3-point defense. But that's a huge win. And yeah, Mullins is great. Stewart made some. I like how Stewart kind of stayed in overtime, and he made some really good defensive plays late. He just makes a lot of smart decisions. Reed woke up in the second half after the first half. I don't know what the heck was going on with him. He did not show up in the first half. He really came alive in the second half. And yeah, thanks for listening, Frank. And yeah, catch you next week. Good luck to your Canes. Hopefully, talk about them next week. Hopefully, that's
Yeah,
championship game.
yep. Oh, yep. Yeah, gotta run. Good segment. See you guys. Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Frank. Yeah, hope again, just like Justin said. Hopefully, we're talking about your Canes playing in the national title game on next Monday night. So good luck and thanks for listening to today. But yeah, you brought it up with Reed. And I think the Providence is big that got into foul trouble. That really helped him because he took off after that. I think when Providence is big got into foul trouble, he really took off after that.
Yeah, he did because then they kind of went smaller with Cole Hargrave, who's more of a 4. And then I did like when King English put Duncan Powell out there to kind of try to spread out Reed, try to make it a 5-out offense, try to keep him away from the rim, which kind of worked there for a little bit.
Yeah, because he was hitting some threes. Powell was hitting some threes.
Yeah, he had 3 all year, and he hit 3 last night. So he's not a totally guy that you have to pay attention to, but he can't spread you out. And he did last night. So, but yeah, other than that, I thought King English kind of got out coached and late in that game, especially. So, but yeah, but Reed definitely dominated when they brought in Hargrave because the kid, transferring from not Drexel last year. He's only 6'8". Like he's not a Big East kind of caliber backup 5. He's more of a 4, and Reed kind of took advantage of that last night.
He definitely did because he was big and he hit the game tying shot. And I think a win like this shows you that this is a championship team because a lot of good teams in college basketball that are down 11 on the road in conference, they lose that game. This shows you because last year UConn would lose that game. UConn would definitely lose that game last year. Last year's UConn loses that game. That's why this year's team is different because they have the heart. This shows you why I think this team is a championship level team. Winning a game like that last night down 11 in a hostile environment with 3 minutes to go, coming back and winning that game. To me, that shows you why they're a championship team.
Yeah, absolutely. And even on your worst nights, it's going to happen in college basketball that they could kind of pull out a win like this. I don't know how much of Michigan basketball you've seen, but
they've been good.
Penn State. They've been good.
But they almost lost, though. But that shows again, though. That's not as hostile of an environment. State college for basketball is not what the dunk is. But that shows you, though, that they still could pull out wins when they don't play their best on the road in
Yeah.
conference.
Yeah, and that's college basketball for you. It's tough to go on the road at conference and go get a win. So, whenever you can do it, it's huge, and yeah, it's a huge one because the building that has gave them problems over the years. I think that they problems has upset them at times, and that was huge. That Kim Ingles needed that game because man, getting St. John's to UConn back to back would have been huge. So, definitely huge too to now have you're still up a game now at St. John's, and I don't think they're even the second best team in the conference, but
You still think it's Villanova after losing to Creighton last night?
I'd make go Creighton 2, Nova 3, St.
Really?
John's 4.
Wow. Creighton lost
I
everyone too.
don't like St. John's. They
Creighton
did.
lost
They're starting to
everyone.
play better. They've been banged up, but McDermott's such a great coach that they're starting to play a lot better. Starting to figure it out. So, Rick Pitino it sounds Demery played great, and Rick Pitino let him walk out the door. Or no, he canceled St. John's visit after coming to. I forgot there was a crazy recruit. But yeah, St. John's could not close on Demery, and he came to stores and.
I'm so happy we got him. 23 and 15 last night. I'm so happy we got Silas Demery.
Yeah, because I know the fouling's been a problem with him, but last night he was good, and he looks a lot more comfortable on the offense, and that was something I was worried about in the non-con, like we saw with Tristan Newton. Was it going to take time for him to adjust the offense? And it did a bit, but last night he looked comfortable, and he looks comfortable now shooting the 3-ball because he ever taken many this year, and he's a good 3-point shooter. He hit a bunch. He hit a couple big ones last night. So
he did.
Big, and then we can't. Yeah. We can't forget the match with Caravan too. He hit a couple big shots too.
Oh, Caravan was great. Yeah, really. Caravan. Outside of ball, everybody played really well. Caravan.
Yeah.
Four guys were at 20 points. Caravan, Reed, Demery, and Mullins. They all had 20 points. They all played really, really good games. So good win for UConn last night. They'll face DePaul on Saturday. They beat DePaul by 18. In the first meeting, 72-54. And I think they win this one by 20, 25 points. I just don't think, outside of CJ Gunn, I don't think DePaul is a very good team.
Yeah. The DePaul team might be wearing white on Wednesday of the Big East tournament for the first time in history.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they'll be like an 8 seed.
They'll be like an, Yeah, because they're better than Marquette. They're better than Xavier. They might be better. They're probably better than Georgetown. What a mess that program is. My God.
Let me tell you, Ed Cooley's got to regret leaving. You saw the atmosphere last night. Why would you leave that to? Why would you leave that to go to Georgetown? I know everything going. I know everything going on.
That's why he left. He was forced out, or he was getting divorced. So, that's why I left. But they should. He should go back there and But no. So they should beat DePaul. DePaul's a little bit better of a team that they've been, but it's still not a great team, and it's not a great Big East. CJ Gunn's a good player. But they're pretty good defensively, and they did a pretty good job defensively against UConn in the first meeting. But it's a game where I think Ken Palm's got them projected by a 20-point spread. So when you cover the number, it's a game. You should be able to get. Gunn's pretty good. Leighton Blacker's a good kind of interior defender. Or a good perimeter defender. I mean, so they got some talent. They got a little bit of talent. Holman's a good coach, but this is a game they should win by 20 plus.
Oh yeah, absolutely. At home, I know it's not at Campbell, it's at XL, but they should. They should definitely be a game they win easily. They go to 6. They cruise. They go to 16-1. An interesting game on Tuesday night though, going to Seton Hall. You think Seton Hall is one of the better teams too? You think around the middle of the conference, Seton Hall?
Yeah, actually, they might. Yeah, 4th or 5th.
They're obviously better than they were. It could have been worse last year, but
Hallway's done a really good job. That Prudential Center is an absolute horror show for UConn over
That's
here.
why I wouldn't be surprised we're talking about a loss next week because that is.
Yeah, I wouldn't either.
Yeah,
I wouldn't either. They're the ninth best defense in the country, efficiency wise. They got a little bit more scoring this year. Adam Clark's been pretty good this year. They might get who's their Nigel Hyde, who's like a freshman who reclassed, who's a pretty highly touted guy. He's been a huge pickup for them. Hopefully they can retain him. So they just play really good defense. They're going to try to muck things up. They don't take a ton of threes. They're pretty good inside scoring wise. But the team that gets to the line too, Howley's just such a great coach. So that's gonna be a tough one. If UConn can get by that one, coming up after that, you got Georgetown on the road.
Maybe the only two they might lose on the road are Villanova and St. John's. That'd probably be the only 2 games they could lose in
Yeah.
conference.
Creighton on the road.
Yeah,
It's a Saturday night game too.
they won there
So
last year, though. Don't forget, they won there last year.
they did, but you never know. They could shoot 60% from 3 at home against UConn. That's usually what they do. But they did get them last year. And McNeely had 41 too.
Oh, and nearly went
McNeely was
off
the
in
only
that
one that
game.
showed
Yeah.
up.
He was the one who went off in
Yeah.
that game. He really went off in that game.
Yeah. So, if they get by the Seton Hall, they're sitting pretty. Where you're looking at 18-2.
Probably.
Probably barring injuries.
Then 28-3 overall. So that should be good enough for a 1 seed if they win the Big East.
It should, because right now, it's probably Michigan, Arizona, Iowa State. That 4th is probably UConn. UConn Duke, I think, is going to probably battle for the 4th right now. Maybe Vandy's look pretty good. Vandy might be in that
I saw
in that
Vandy
race
play a little bit
too.
last night. Yeah, they played. They got some good guard play.
Yeah, they do. And Mark Bryant's a great coach. So that 4th number 1 is going to be up for grabs. So you can get it, and you can get I think it's Jersey or DC. But it's either the Eastern Regional this year. So you'd love to play right, if it's Newark or YGC, it's gonna be a home game for the UConn. UConn or Duke 2 seeds, it may be a 50-50 or close to it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll see. UConn off to a hot start. Should with their record now being 15-1, they should cruise in Big East play. And as we said, there's a very good chance they win the Big East and get the 1 seed. We'll be talking about them every week from here on out because they're with them getting into this Big East schedule. Well, we got to wrap up the show talking about Trae Young, and he was traded yesterday from the Hawks to the Wizards. It kind of was a steal for the Wizards, getting him. I know he's not. I don't think he's a guy you can win a championship with as your best player, but you add him to a young core here. You add him to a young core of Alex Sarr and Trey Johnson. I think he could potentially be a guy who could help this team try to get back into contention. I like this trade for the Wizards. I know the Hawks were better without him, but better defensively. But that's regular season games. I still think they're going to miss the scoring, and I think this team misses the play-in altogether because they don't have him.
I think they sneak in. I'm not a huge Trae Young fan. I've never been. He's a great scorer. Don't get me wrong. Even though his shooting numbers have dipped a little bit, he plays no defense. He didn't seem like he was a great team player, and they've been playing better without him. So I kind of think this Hawks team can get into the in the playing game without him, and we'll see what other moves they kind of make. I saw too they might be trying to go get Anthony Davis, which I don't
saw that.
love.
I saw Shams talking about that yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. I just the anchor to kind of the defensive side. I don't love that with his age and his injury history, but we'll see. But I think this Hawks team is good enough without him. I think they're a better team without him on the floor. I know the scoring, but he's just a liability on defense.
I think if you get into games you need to win, I don't think you are. I know Jalen Johnson is good. Shea really hasn't lived up to the hype so far. I just don't think you are. I don't think you are. I just don't. I know they'll go out and get Anthony Davis, and I know Davis is better defensively. Young's a better scorer, so that'll be a better defensive team. But if you need a bucket, I just don't think anybody. I think Trae Young was the guy, so I don't like it for the Hawks. I like it better for the Wizards.
Yeah, for the Wizards, yeah. I don't love them, but it's for the Wizards. What do you? Or you gave up CJ McCollum and Corey Kispert. You didn't give up much. So for the Wizards, you take a shot. So yeah, I don't mind it for the Wizards. For the Hawks, yeah. He's a great bucket getter, but he'll just give it right back on the other end on defense. He's just that's just my problem with him. I get it's not a defensive league, but man, can you at least try on that end of the floor?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't even look like most he gives. He's even really giving much effort on that end. So that's why I've never been a huge fan of him.
Yeah, you're right about that. You're definitely right about that. Who would have thought though? After he led the Hawks to the conference, I think he led them to the conference. In his 3rd year, he led them to the conference finals. Now that the Hawks are moving on from him, but he's been an all-star level player, but not a superstar. And that's what happens sometimes when you're an all-star and a superstar. And a team's got to has to make a decision if they're going to extend you or not. And the Hawks have made that decision to trade him. Wizards will probably sign him to an extension. I'd be shocked if they didn't, but still. That's what happens when you're an all-star and you're not a superstar. You're not an untouchable player. Trae Young ends up getting traded to the Wizards, and we'll see what happens from there. But that's going to wrap up this edition of Sports Talk with R&J. For Justin D'Onofrio, I'm Steve Risser. We will be back next week talking about the divisional round of the NFL playoffs, breaking down the national championship game, and talking UConn basketball. Have a great weekend, everyone.